SmartB Sports Update Podcast is brought to you by Optimum CBD. For all your rest and recovery needs, CBD products are your best bet. Go to OptimumCBD.store to order now. Free delivery on all orders over $99. You must be over 18 to order. I use Optimum CBD products personally for my rest and recovery. I train 6 days a week in Jiu-Jitsu, as you've probably heard on the SmartB Sports Update Podcast. I teach, I train, I compete. And without Optimum CBD products, I wouldn't be able to do it. Optimum CBD for all your rest and recovery needs. Well, it's the 14th of January. Happy Christmas, Merry New Year.
Yeah, same to you, John.
Did you have a good break?
Yeah, I just worked all the way through, so no rest for me, but that's all right, I don't mind. What about yourself?
Oh, I did lots of jiu-jitsu.
Oh yeah, nice. Bit of teaching.
Heaps of teaching. And lots of ability to practice a bunch of stuff I've been working on, so it was really good.
Yeah, nice.
When you're in the class, you have to do what the teacher says, but when you're the teacher, you get to decide what everyone does. So basically, everyone was doing what I needed to do.
It's a good position to be in, isn't it?
So thanks for all of the guys that that improved my jiu-jitsu that I took advantage of for the past 3 weeks. Meanwhile, lots happened in sport. I'll lead off with the Sydney Morning Herald, the greatest newspaper in the universe, not a tabloid at all, and their top 50 greatest athletes of all time.
Yes. Unfortunately, there's a lot that I don't agree with. But what I thought I would do, I know a lot of people might not have caught the list, so I might just quickly read through each name on the list. We won't talk about each one as I go. I'll just read out the names, and then once I've read out the names, we'll talk about it. So I'll start with number 50. We got that so I'll just clear it up. So the Sydney Morning Herald did who is the greatest GOAT of all, our top 50 revealed, and the top line is we asked our writers to rank their top 10 athletes of all time. This is the official top 50 based on their votes. So I'm just putting that out there. So I'll start with number 50. Jess Fox, number 49, Stephanie Gilmore, 48, Erin Phillips, 47, Greg Maddox, 46, Cameron Smith, 45, Michaela Schifrin, whoever that is, 44, Andrew Johns, 43, Nadia Comaneci, 42, Larry Bird, 41, Lauren Jackson, 40, Elise Perry, 39, Richie McCaw, 38, Lee Matthews, 37, Sachin Tendulkar, 36, Ronnie O'Sullivan, 35, Kaylee McEwen, 34, Jesse Owens, 33, Eddie Mersick, 32, Wayne Carey, 31, Tom Brady, 30, Bill Russell, 29, Edward Moses, 28, Steffi Graf, 27, Babe Ruth, 26, Marta, 25, Jahangir Khan, 24, Hulk Hogan, one of your mates.
Athlete.
Yes. 23, LeBron James. 22, Lewis Hamilton. 21, Winks. Yeah, they've included a horse in that. 20, Eliud Kipchoge. 19, Shohei Ohtani. 18, Carl Lewis. 17, Kelly Slater. 16, Jack Nicklaus. 15, Billie Jean King. 14, Diego Maradona. 13, Novak Djokovic. 12, Pele. 11, Shane Warne. 10, Michael Phelps. 9, Simone Biles. 8, Tiger Woods. 7, Roger Federer. 6, Lionel Messi. 5, Muhammad Ali. 4, Don Bradman. 3, Serena Williams. 2, Usain Bolt. Number 1, Michael Jordan. Is there anything off the top of your head that you want to kick off with?
You can clearly see a bias in the sports. What about John Jones, the greatest MMA fighter of all time? What about how do you put Muhammad Ali on there and not Floyd Mayweather, who won 50 and lost 0? Even Muhammad Ali said Mike Tyson was scarier and better than him. I don't mind Michael Jordan. I think Michael Jordan is arguably one of the greatest athletes of all time. I don't know how Federer ends up higher than Novak Djokovic, and I like Federer better as a you know. Although wasn't going to comment. Novak Djokovic is becoming more and more likable these days, but
and guess who didn't make the list altogether?
Rafael Nadal.
Yes.
Rafael Nadal.
So Rafael Nadal not in their top 50. Rafael Nadal not in their top 50 greatest athletes of all time. So you can only establish from that what they did. They put this list together when they were all drunk at the Christmas party or something to not include Rafael Nadal.
Hulk Hogan, his achievements. A 12-time world champion for WWE and WCW, back-to-back Royal Rumble titles, and WWF champion for 1,474 days. That's predetermined. It's not a competition. It's a popularity contest. Why isn't Miss Universe on there?
Yeah, that's right.
Whoever the greatest Miss Universe is.
Yeah, he's an actor.
Who's won the most Oscars out of everybody is basically like this. I don't know.
I mean, Tom Cruise should be on there.
Yeah, it's Laurence Olivier. Compared to Hulk Hogan, man. Like, there's no denying that being a professional WWE style wrestler as opposed to a real wrestler like Jordan Burroughs, you have to be fit and on heaps of steroids. But it's not. Doesn't put you. No matter what your achievements are, it's a story. It's like, you know, that guy made 5 good movies. It's not a real thing. You're not competing for anything. Yeah. It really is a popularity contest. That's not athletics.
Yeah, and you got, you know, Nadal and Djokovic won more majors than Federer. Nadal won 22 majors. Djokovic won 24. Federer won 20. As you pointed out, they got Federer at number 7 and Djokovic at 13, if you can believe that. Rafael Nadal nowhere to be seen in the top 50. Unbelievable. Nadal won 14 French Open titles. He had a 112-4 win-loss record at the French Open. So he won as many majors at the French Open as Pete Sampras won in his whole career. He's the Don Bradman of, and we're going to get to Don Bradman in a minute, but he's the Don Bradman of the French Open, and he doesn't get a gig in the top 50 greatest athletes of all time. How ridiculous is that?
Even having LeBron James at 23, if you're going to put Michael Jordan at number 1, basketball fans constantly argue whether LeBron has actually gone past Michael Jordan. It's the same as, like...
Yeah, well, it's a debate, isn't it? It's a debate.
Yeah, but he's like LeBron James at 23 and Michael Jordan at 1, when basketball fans, probably like 50% of basketball fans would tell you LeBron James is better than Michael Jordan. And then, I don't mind Michael Jordan. I think he's the GOAT. I think people who think LeBron James is better than him are crazy. But
at least it is a debate, though. Yeah. There's debate over it. Yeah,
there's a debate over it. So to have such a startling difference between the two is... Even, but it's like... LeBron James and Michael Jordan argument goes back to when it was Federer, Nadal and Novak, and they all had the same amount, you know? They were around the same, and then you could have that argument about who was the GOAT. But as we've pointed out many times, like, Nadal has simply gone past Federer, and then Djokovic has gone past them both. So to not have Nadal, but to have Federer at 7 and Novak at 13, surely you would have, if anything, Novak at 7, Nadal at 13, and Federer at 22 or something. That, you know?
Yeah, that's right. And further to that, I've just mentioned the majors before. Djokovic also has the record for most weeks at number 1 with 428. Way ahead of Federer on 310. So there's that as well. It's not just the majors. Djokovic has also got a lot more weeks at number 1 than Federer, and the most weeks at number 1 of all time. That's another factor to consider as well. Some other interesting points here. Serena Williams at number 3, but no Margaret Court in the top 50. Margaret Court won 24 majors, one more than Serena Williams, and yet Serena Williams is at number 3 and Margaret Court's not in the top 50. What, just because she made a few homophobic comments, does that mean she can no longer get in top 50 greatest of all time list?
Banned from everything now.
Yeah, so that's it. She's nowhere to be seen just because she has some controversial religious views.
That's how life is now. Having Jess Fox at 50, you can't take away from Jess Fox.
No. Look, this is not, and I was going to get to that now. This is not a go at Jess Fox, right? I think we both like Jess Fox. We're not having a go at her. She's not a writer with the SMH. She didn't put this list together.
But is she in the 50 greatest of all time?
This is the thing. Like
sports?
She's won 3 Olympic gold medals. Emma McKeon won 6 Olympic gold medals, and she's nowhere to be seen. Emma McKeon at the 2024 Olympics became our greatest Olympian, winning more Olympic gold medals than any other Australian, and yet she's not in the top 50. How does that work? And Kaylee McEwen, who's at number 35 on the list there, she won 5 Olympic golds, but yet Emma McKeon with 6 is not on the list at all. Our greatest Olympian doesn't get in the top 50. When Jess Fox is at 50 and Kaylee McEwen is at 35.
You've got, like from rugby league, Andrew Johns and Cameron Smith, but you're missing people like Jonathan Thurston. People will argue, again, that comes down to that argument of you can effectively argue that Jonathan Thurston is like better than Andrew Johns, and that argument will go on forever as far as I'm concerned. You know, Queenslanders and some New South Welshmen will say Jonathan Thurston is, and New South Welshmen and some Queenslanders will say Andrew Johns is better. But the only 2 rugby league players are Andrew Johns and Cameron Smith. Why isn't Jonathan Thurston there? I mean, you can't have it stacked with rugby league players, but I think Jonathan Thurston rates a higher level than Cameron Smith, to be honest. Because the argument is there. People argue whether Andrew Johns or Jonathan Thurston is the greatest rugby league player of all time. Nobody argues whether Cameron Smith is a greater rugby league player than Andrew Johns and Jonathan Thurston.
Yeah, it's almost as if they're going, we've got to put 2 rugby league players in, so let's put Johns and Cameron Smith in. And
they must have been drunk and forgotten Jonathan Thurston's name. What's that other halfback's name? Oh, no, we just put Cameron Smith.
I think that's the only explanation you could have. And look, Usain Bolt at number 2. Now, he won 8 Olympic gold medals. And I know he's a runner, and I know Michael Phelps is a swimmer, and I know swimmers have more events. I get that. But Michael Phelps won 23 Olympic gold medals to Usain Bolt's 8 Olympic gold medals. Michael Phelps is at number 10, Usain Bolt's at number 2. Because that's the thing, when we think about runners and swimmers, we think of them as Olympians first.
Yeah,
that's the first thing we think of is Olympians.
That
23 gold medals to 8, 15 more gold medals, and he's lower than him on
the other stuff. The World Championships, he just qualifies for the qualifiers for the Olympics. You know, so it doesn't matter if Usain Bolt might have won more World Championships in running. Who knows? I wouldn't know.
How do you have somebody who won 8 gold medals at number 2 and somebody who won 23 Olympic gold medals at number 10? How does that work? And why is Michael Phelps not in a better position than a higher position than Usain Bolt there?
Is it all just they had to put 2 from each sport in as well?
It seems like that, doesn't it?
Because there's only there's Bill Russell.
But see, the thing about lists like this though, if you're going to do it, you got to do it properly. Otherwise, don't bother. You got to do it justice. This is a half-hearted attempt.
Babe Ruth is the baseball player on there, but I'm not a massive baseball fan, but I can name like a bunch. Babe Ruth just is most famous. You know, he doesn't have the stats to be the best. There are other players that are actually like way statistically better than. The most thing about Babe Ruth is he's famous because he would point, and he also didn't run. He had a designated runner because he's a big fat dude who couldn't be bothered.
Yeah.
So he's more famous is all.
Yeah.
You know, so he's just smashed the homers and someone else had run on base for him. But he's not the greatest baseball player of all time, let alone being on the greatest top 50 athletes of all time.
Yeah, I mean, and you know, if you're asking me who should have been number 1, I think it should have been Don Bradman because if you think about Michael Jordan, we've talked about it, LeBron James is in the argument. If you think about Usain Bolt as an Olympian, well, Michael Phelps is in the argument, and Michael Phelps should have been higher than him. If you think about Serena Williams, well, you got Margaret Court, right? Don Bradman had a test average of 99.94. The next best test batting average of all time was Adam Voges at number 2 with 61.87, and that's for batsmen who batted a minimum of 20 innings. There needs to be some qualification for that, otherwise you'd have people who played 1 test and scored 100 ahead of Don Bradman.
Guys with 100%
Yeah. So this is the thing. Don Bradman is the only one who has put so much of a gap between him and the second best performer in his discipline, which is batting in cricket. No, none of these other top three have that much distance between them and the second person, and even some of them you could debate whether they're even on top in their own sport at all. Like Serena Williams, Michael Jordan, you mentioned probably ahead of LeBron James. But again, Usain Bolt. Look at Michael. We're talking about Michael Phelps. Hello, as an Olympian, 23 golds to 8 golds. So that's why. I mean, personally, that's why I would have had Don Bradman at number 1.
Yeah.
So I don't agree with Don Bradman being at number 4. He should have been at number 1, because nobody else is that much of a standout achiever in their sport.
Yeah, it's probably just Michael Jordan is more famous. There's a movie about him with Ben Affleck.
Do you think? Yeah, that's right. And possibly
not actually about him. It's about
and possibly there could be a recency bias. Michael Jordan competed a lot more recently than Don Bradman, obviously. I think that's a factor as well. The fact that Don Bradman retired so long ago before most of us were born. Well before most of us were born.
I just think the fact as soon as you get to number 24 and Hulk Hogan is on there, then all of the list.
Then it's just a joke.
Yeah, the rest of the list is redundant.
Yeah, and so is it fair to say the two most ridiculous things about this list are that Hulk Hogan's on it and that Rafael Nadal's not in the top 50?
For sure.
Yeah.
If you're going to have Djokovic and Federer, you got to have Nadal, and you got to have them in order of.
How do you have Federer at 7, Djokovic at 13, and no Nadal?
Yeah, that's the thing. If you're going to have Djokovic and Federer on there, you got to have Nadal as well because he's in between them.
How do you have? Can I just say, how do you have Andrew Johns and Cameron Smith and not have Nadal? How does that work?
Popularity.
How does that work?
But even then, like Nadal, it's just that's nonsense. But yeah, as soon as you get to number 24 and say Hulk Hogan, it's like, bro, hey, he's not a greatest sportsman of all time. He's a very fit, he's not large anymore. He's actually shrunk because he's got basically all of his discs fused. So he's lost height. It's really bizarre. Like it's because wrestlers are they're very fit and they do participate in a very dangerous performance.
Yeah.
But it's a performance. It's not a sport. They have no achievements.
Yeah, look, and just to clear up what I just said, I just said, how could you have Cameron Smith and Andrew Johns and not have Nadal? What I'm saying is, I'm not, obviously questioning the standing of Cameron Smith and Andrew Johns. I'm just saying that, like, come on, in the scheme of the world and world sport, you got 2 rugby league players, a game that's only played in really 2 states and a couple of other
they have
countries.
A World Cup.
Yeah, compared to Rafael Nadal, who's a global superstar.
Yeah.
Like, come on, Another thing I noticed. How do you have Jack Nicklaus at number 16, who won 18 majors, and Tiger Woods at number 8, who won 15 majors? Jack Nicklaus should be above Tiger Woods.
Tiger Woods is richer.
So that's the thing. This list is just a load of crap,
Tiger Woods
basically.
was the first athlete ever to earn $1 billion solely from sports earnings. So that puts him in the GOAT.
Yeah.
Is Tiger Woods the GOAT?
Well, that's classic recency bias, I think. Having Tiger Woods above Jack Nicklaus.
Like there are some things that you can have the argument, like LeBron versus Michael Jordan, because I think Michael Jordan has more championship rings. I don't know. People will throw the stats out to prove their opinion, right?
Oh, it's got it there, yeah. So Michael Jordan, 6-time NBA champion. LeBron James, 4 times, yeah.
But so I'll throw out a stat, and then whoever is on the other side, so they'll say that, like Michael Jordan has 6 rings, and then the LeBron people will throw out a different stat. So there's that argument, right? But there are some where you just say Novak Djokovic has 24 majors. What's your counter argument?
Yeah. That's the difference, right? With LeBron and Michael Jordan, you're more of a basketball person than me, but it sounds like at least you can throw up counter stats.
Yeah.
With Djokovic and Federer, there's no counter. It's all one way.
Like, what's your counter that? Because there used to be, even as early as, last year, right? Last year? Oh, no, the year before. Early as 2023. We're in 2023.
They're adjusting to 2025.
There was counter arguments that people with Roger Federer were still holding on to, right? So it was like, Novak's won, say, 22 and Roger won 20, but Roger Federer has an Olympic gold medal, right?
don't think so. I'm going to check. I'm going to check that.
Roger Federer has 12 Davis Cups and Novak only has 11.
Yeah.
Roger Federer has this and Novak.
And another thing they would talk about was Roger Federer had a nicer style of play. He was a more fluent stroke maker than Novak Djokovic.
Then Novak Djokovic took all of the records. The only record that Roger Federer still holds is if you add the word Swiss.
Yeah.
He's the only Swiss player to have won.
Look, you are right. He does have an Olympic gold in 2008 at Beijing, but it was in doubles. So I don't know if it's not as significant in doubles. It's still an Olympic gold, but it's in doubles. I guess we're not really talking about doubles, are we? With this, but he did win a silver in singles in London in 2012.
There's all those as recently as 2 years ago, you could throw out a bunch of stats for that Nadal versus Djokovic versus Federer. But the simple fact is, in a year, Novak Djokovic took all of the records. And there's nothing you can do. Novak Djokovic simply is above Roger Federer.
And that's the other thing, if we talk about Olympic gold medals, well, Novak Djokovic won one in singles in Paris last year. So there you go. Djokovic does have a singles Olympic gold medal. Federer does not. So that's yet another tick in the Djokovic column.
There is no counter stats. But with LeBron and Michael Jordan, there is. Yeah,
Djokovic, more Grand Slam titles, more time at number one. He's won an Olympic gold in singles. Federer hasn't. You could go on and on. I think Djokovic is the only one of the three to have won all three majors at least 3 times as well. Federer hasn't done that. He only won the French Open once. So we could go on and on all day about Djokovic having the edge over Federer, but obviously they've missed the boat on that at the Sydney Morning Herald.
Hulk Hogan should have been first because, he's got 12... What is it, 12?
Yeah, well, if you're going to leave Rafael Nadal out of it, you may as well have Hulk Hogan at number 1.
I don't know. They only have one boxer on there, which is Muhammad Ali, who is one of the greatest of all times, but he's simply no longer the greatest of all time. He's arguably now... You can have the argument, people will have the argument between him, Mike Tyson, and Tyson Fury, who is the greatest heavyweight of all time. But the simple fact is, Floyd Mayweather is the greatest boxer of all time. No matter how much you hate him.
So I think, doesn't he have he has never lost a
50-0.
Yeah, never lost a fight.
50.
Has anyone else, you're a lot more knowledgeable about fight sports than me. No one else has, no one else has an undefeated record, do they?
No, Tyson Fury did until he drew.
Right, okay.
I mean, there's so you got to add some kind of caveat to it, like undefeated record of over 10 or something. But no one comes close to Floyd Mayweather, man. He has 50. The fact that he has 50 fights, let alone the fact that
and it sounds like no draws. It's 50 wins, 0 losses.
Wins. Yeah. So Tyson Fury was let me just check because Tyson Fury was coming close. Tyson Fury was has had 37. Right. Where's the boxing record? It was the draw came when he was 28. His 28th fight was, so he was on the way. That was, people were thinking Tyson Fury is the only one who could possibly go on to get to the 50 because he was so dominant, up until his 28th fight where he drew with Deontay Wilder. Yeah. And then he lost his last 2, so now he's 34-2. And that's with 36 fights. The fact that Floyd Mayweather has had 50 fights, let alone won them all, makes him the greatest boxer of all time.
Yeah.
That's it. Like there's no argument there. You can go on about how Muhammad Ali had a great personality and was really good for the sport and grew the sport and lost. Muhammad Ali lost.
I just can't believe they've got sub-editors there. I can't believe nobody went through it and went, did you know that we don't have Rafael Nadal on this list? Did anybody check that? Did anybody look twice at that? This could be the worst put together list on any subject ever.
I don't understand how you also don't have John Jones on there or Khabib Nurmagomedov. Khabib Nurmagomedov.
He beat McGregor, didn't he?
Yeah, 29-0.
Oh, so he's the Mayweather of UFC.
Yeah, there's a lot of argument about him because his early fights, you're not meant to count 2-round fights in your professional record, but in Russia they do, and some would argue so Russians can pad their stats. Right. And a lot of Khabib Nurmagomedov's earlier fights were against cans, guys with 0 wins and 30 losses or whatever, ridiculous. So they say Khabib's record is padded a lot, but even then, you have John Jones, who's undefeated. Well, he has one loss through disqualification. But he has something like 14 title defenses across 3 eras of MMA as well. You know, it's not just one. He when did he debut? It was really like a long time ago for MMA. You think about something like Khabib Nurmagomedov, he was in the game 29-0 for like, I think he was in the UFC for 4 years. So John Jones is now 37. He debuted started fighting in 2008.
Yeah, right.
People don't stay undefeated in combat sports for 16 years.
Yeah. It's pretty unheard of.
So, how do you not have John Jones in there? If you're going to have Muhammad Ali, how do you only have one boxer in there and you have Hulk Hogan as your combat sports thing? And you really want to get into it, like, why is it missing people like Gordon Ryan and Roger Gracie, who are the greatest jiu-jitsu athletes of all time? Like, there's so many sports missing out that, like, Gordon Ryan is something like 61, 62 fights at black belt undefeated or some crap like that as well, you know, like, it's just, yeah, that's nonsense. All nonsense.
Yeah,
Hulk Hogan is there.
Yeah, it's a terrible...
I'm insulted for all combat sports, to be honest.
It's a terrible list. I thought they deserved a spray off the top today.
Jordan Burroughs in there if you're going to put a wrestler in. Jordan Burroughs is one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. Or, what's his name? Dan Gable, who won an Olympic gold medal without having a point scored against him. Didn't even know.
Yeah.
Went through all of his fights and didn't even know until apparently, like, I can't remember the exact story, but it was like, you know, when there was only a minute to go in his gold medal match, he realised, I haven't had a point scored against me all Olympics. You know, like, there's so many other guys that should be there. And again, like, I'm not baiting Jess Fox, but,
yeah,
like, Jess Fox doesn't rate for the... Sorry. She's probably the greatest canoer... I don't know what they're called. Canoeing person?
Yeah. Canoe/kayaker.
Canoeist of all time. But that doesn't put her in the greatest athletes of all time because she's just fresh. That's all it is. It's just fresh.
And I just noticed number 48 there, they got Erin Phillips, AFL/basketball. So she's an AFLW player. So they've got an AFLW player on the list, but they don't have... And again, it's not a sexist thing because I'm about to say... Why do they have an AFLW player on the list, but they don't have Emma McKeon on the list, who's our greatest Olympian with 6 Olympic gold medals? So again, it's not a sexist thing because I'm saying that Emma McKeon should be on the list ahead of an AFLW player.
I don't think you can.
And I don't think that that's anything wrong with that.
I don't think you can put any AFLW player on there because the sport hasn't been around for long enough.
No.
Unfortunately, they're just not that good compared to AFL men. It's not a difference between like women's tennis and men's tennis. It's a vast...
Yeah, or women's swimming and men's swimming.
It's a vast difference.
Yeah.
Like it's
like
AFLW is basically amateur AFL, you know, like it's basically.
But again, I'm not having a go at Erin Phillips.
Yeah.
I'm having a go at the people who put this list together because, as we said, they obviously did it at the Christmas party when they'd had a few too many. Apart from that, I can't think of what other explanation there would be for the many oversights that we've just gone through.
Exactly. But yeah, well, that's the stupid Sydney Morning Herald, which is now a tabloid magazine. Anyway, on to rugby league. Mm-hmm. The Brisbane Broncos believe that bringing their club into disrepute is 108 times worse than causing an accident while with drugs in your system and driving unlicensed, apparently.
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll just point out there's we've had a bit of a break here. We haven't been here for about a month doing this, so we had a bit of a break over Christmas and New Year. So I'm just pointing that out. There's some of this stuff happened a little while ago, but it happened during our break. So I thought we'd revisit it. So we were on when Ezra Mam was fined $850 and had his licence suspended for 9 months, a very lenient punishment. That was in the Brisbane Magistrates Court. We were here to talk about that, but we haven't been here since he received a 9-game ban by the NRL and $120,000 in fines from the Broncos and the NRL. So the NRL has since banned him for only 9 games for this terrible offence where he was under the influence of drugs, he was unlicensed, and he happened to drive on the other side of the road. collide with a car and injure the passengers in the vehicle.
I dealt with a bunch of Broncos fans and stuff like that who, of course, defend Ezra Mam, who don't comprehend the issue with the monetary value, right? So it's $90,000 from the Broncos and $30,000 from the NRL in fines. The issue is not with the value of those fines. The issue is with the value of the court fine. In reality, what it is saying, very clearly dictating, right? The court believes what Ezra Mam did is worth an $850 fine, which is drive dangerously and recklessly and cause an accident and be on cocaine, and like the list just goes on and on and on. The NRL believes that bringing the game into disrepute by doing all that stuff, it's very important. They're fine. As I was like having a discussion with some idiot online about this, yes, their fine is for bringing the game into disrepute. For all that stuff that he did is a $30,000 fine. So the NRL believes that bringing the game into disrepute is however much times more worse than the Brisbane courts think driving unlicensed and all the laundry list of things.
Yeah.
Then the Broncos fine came out, which was $90,000. Mm-hmm. That is 108.5 or something times more.
Yeah.
So they believe that causing negative headlines about the Broncos is 108 times worse than driving on the wrong side of the road while under the influence of cocaine and license and stuff like that. Those bringing the game into disreputes are for the driving, all that stuff, the laundry list, right? But they add in front of it, bringing game into disrepute, causing negative headlines. So the issue is not actually with the Broncos fine and the NRL fine. The issue is with the magistrate fine. If anything, it should be the other way around. I saw the greatest comment about it with the Brisbane, with the court thing. He will get fined more by the NRL for doing a head-high tackle in a game than he did for driving unlicensed, on cocaine, causing an accident, injuring 3 people.
That's true.
Like it's $1,100 fine or whatever it is for a minor penalty, not a head-high tackle, but a minor penalty. Well, like touching a ref.
Yeah.
More money than what the thing is. So the issue is not with the value of the fines from the Broncos. It's just funny to point out that it's 108 times more worse.
Yeah.
And it's because the court didn't fine him enough.
Because it was too soft.
Yeah.
The punishment was too soft.
The court didn't fine him enough. And then to suspend it, and then you get
then he gets a 9-game ban. It should have been more than that.
So he got a 9-month license suspension on his already non-existent license. And just a 9-game suspension. It beggars belief, actually.
I think he should have got a year. I think he should have got a full season.
If what's his name? Jake Friend had to go work in a sandwich shop for repeated indiscretions. Not a single one of his repeated indiscretions was as bad as the one that Ezra Mam did. On top of Ezra Mam already getting into trouble in Bali in the holidays, right? So Jake Friend got banned for a year and had to go and work in a sandwich shop or whatever. Todd Carney did a whole bunch of stuff and got banned for a year and had to go play for the Atherton Roosters or whatever. Granted, he did a lot of like actual illegal things. Yeah,
he actually got banned from Goulburn there for a while.
But none of them were actually as bad as Ezra Mam's thing. It's the monetary value of the $120,000 is the amount that the courts should have fined him. You know, there's clearly an issue there. $850, he's like, meh. But then he gets hit with $120,000 by the NRL. So bringing the game into disrepute is worse than driving under the influence of cocaine and without a license causing an accident. And then a 9-game suspension is ridiculous. It's just...
Yeah, well, remember there were those really nasty incidents sort of back in the day, on-field incidents. I think it was Danny Williams might have elbowed someone in the head or clocked someone in the head. John Hopewadi karate chopped Keith Galloway in the head. And they both got like really long suspensions. I think Hopewadi might have got 12 plus weeks, maybe even longer. Danny Williams, I think I'm just off the top of my head. Danny Williams might have got 16 weeks, something like that. So they got longer suspensions for on-field acts than Ezra Mam got here for an act that could have killed people on the road. Yeah. And it wasn't just like an accident that, it couldn't be avoided. Again, drove on the other side of the road, was under the influence of drugs, and he was unlicensed. And he gets less of a ban than, I think, off the top of my head, John Hopewadi and Danny Williams got back in the day for on-field incidents.
Well, yeah, also, this biggest ban this year was Spencer Leniu for a racist remark at 8 weeks. It was 8 weeks, right?
Yeah.
Last year.
Yeah. So Lenny got 8 weeks for that, and Ezra Mam gets 9 weeks for this.
Being racist is almost as bad as driving on the wrong side of the road.
Almost killing innocent
But being racist is almost as bad.
Yeah.
Almost as bad.
Yeah.
We already know that homophobia is half as bad as racism. But again, thanks to the NRL and the AFL for giving us the morally what is right or wrong. 9 weeks it's of course every Broncos fan is defending it, right? Every Broncos fan, but it's insane that he only got 9 weeks, and it's also insane that he only got an $850 fine. Like we talked about that last year, but it doesn't make any sense that he only got 9 weeks. That was their thing, and did they really think that anyone aside from Broncos fans would support it?
Yeah, that's right. And just to clear that up, I've just looked that up. So Hopewadi got 17 weeks for an on-field incident. And I'm just looking up Danny Williams.
But at least they didn't drive on the wrong side of the road. And they should have driven on the wrong side of the road while on cocaine and smashed into another car.
Yeah. And Danny Williams got 18 weeks. So Danny Williams, 18 weeks. John Hopewadi, 17 weeks for on-field incidents. Ezra Mam, for what he did, 9 weeks.
Yeah, they should.
So he got half the punishment that Danny Williams did for an on-field
Williams should have driven
incident.
on the wrong side of the road while under the influence of cocaine and unlicensed and smashed into another car. Would have been better for him. Think about that. It would have been better for Danny Williams to get on the coke while unlicensed, jump in a car, drive on the wrong side of the road, and smash into someone, injuring 3 people.
Yeah, he would have only got half the suspension.
It's half as bad.
Yeah.
It's really, it beggars belief. And the only people who are supporting it, as I said, Broncos fans and a bunch of players, because we've got to support Ezra Mam and make sure he's okay. What we've really got to do is support the people who are injured, and also support make sure that people understand that you can't do stuff like that. It's obvious that there is a cocaine problem, well, not problem, but problem in rugby league. 4 completely separate players that don't play on the same teams, don't play on the same rep teams, aren't linked to one another in any way, shape or form in the past 2 years that have been done for cocaine-related incidents. It's obvious. And giving softball suspensions for cocaine-related car accidents is not going to stop them all from taking the cocaine.
No. The punishment needs to be a deterrent from doing it again. And the punishment that Ezra Mam's got from both the court, his club and the NRL, it's not a deterrent. 9 games, it's not that long, really, when you think about it.
It's not.
They should have given him a season.
Funny thing about it, people say, criminal punishments are meant to be a deterrent. And that is in some regards, right? Because it's actually, criminal punishments are meant to be a deterrent for victimless crimes. Because victim-based crimes, morals are actually the deterrent. There's a funny conversation in that Ricky Gervais show, Afterlife, where a lady says, he's having a conversation with him and says, if raping and murdering was illegal, you'd go around and rape and murder people. And he said, no, I would rape and murder the exact same amount of people as I currently do if it was legal.
Yeah.
It's not the crime that's deterring me, it's the moral thing, right? That's for the victim-based crimes. Victimless crimes, like taking cocaine and stuff like that, it's not morals that deter you, it's fines, punishments. But Ezra Mam's one is actually a victim-based crime.
Oh, yeah.
So, morals should be the deterrent.
A 4-year-old girl suffered a broken hip, and there was an injury suffered by her mother, and there was an injury suffered by the Uber driver.
The cocaine part is victimless, right? So the deterrent is the punishment. They've given him a softball punishment that, will deter no one. It would deter no one. Because you're just going to, Ezra Mam only got $850. I got a $500 fine for accidentally running a red light the other day. It's it's almost as much as
almost as much.
Fueled thing. But then, like the cocaine thing is the punishment-based deterrent, right? So a bigger punishment for the cocaine. But then you move into the victim-based one. He was morally bankrupt for driving unlicensed while on cocaine and causing an accident. And so morals should deter him. And the fact that he doesn't get punishment, it's not going to learn a lesson. It's not going to improve his morals. It's not going to improve his ethics. And I don't know Ezra Mam, and maybe he feels better for, like he's, feels bad about it and everything. But I'm just talking in general. He has to be punished enough that he understands that it's not acceptable in society to drive around hopped up on coke and unlicensed and stuff like that.
Well, he was lucky. He was lucky not to have been deregistered by the NRL. He was lucky not to have lost his career over it.
Right now, the punishment is a deterrent to not bring the game into disrepute. Right? So if he can get away with being on coke and driving, he's going to continue to do it. But he's afraid of putting the game into disrepute. Everybody should be afraid of driving unlicensed while you're on coke. Because, as I said, the victimless crime part, there's a bad enough punishment from the criminal system to stop you from doing it. And then you have to be, like, I don't get on the coke and go driving because I'm afraid I might have I don't get on the coke. I'm too old. But I don't get on the coke and go driving because I'm afraid I'm going to smash into someone and kill them. Like, that's how he should feel as well. Yeah. But nothing
serious.
Nothing that has happened to him will actually deter him from going again. So no, actually, part of it as well, I just think this whole thing about... I can't believe that these... And I don't understand how clubs and the NRL can fine their players, actually. This occurred to me when I was thinking about it, when I was talking about Ezra Mam to people. It's actually kind of weird, to be honest, that your employer can fine you and withhold your salary. And surely... some smart lawyer is one day going to create a class action of ex-players and find a way like that doesn't meet actually workplace laws. Because
it's like you're either you can't have it both ways. Either if you're not sacking them, well, they're still an employee and they should be paid.
Can you really garnish your employees' wages for doing something? Like, I know that's a completely different.
That's the thing. You either sack him. Or he's an employee, he gets paid.
Yeah, it's very bizarre that they can do that, Yeah. It just occurred to me with Ezra Mam because it was such a difference between the $850 and the $120,000. I was like, it's a bit weird, actually. And think about it. The court says what you did is worth $850. And then this guy's employer says, well, actually, bringing the game into disrepute is worth 108.5 times worse. Yeah. And so we're going to garnish your wages for it. Yeah. If my job ever said to me, bro, we're going to garnish your wages because you went on a coke bender on the weekend, I'd be like, goodbye, I quit.
But you're right. I mean, that just shows how lenient the courts were, doesn't it?
Yeah,
that he was fined $120,000 combined by the NRL and the Brisbane Broncos, and only $850 by the court.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. I love that thing, like the 108 times.
Yeah, it's
bringing the game into disrepute.
It's a good point.
By driving while on cocaine, unlicensed, and causing an accident that injures 3 people, is 108 times worse than just driving while...
Yeah, well, this is the thing. I think the NRL and the Broncos have got the fine right, but they didn't get the suspension part right. I think $120,000 fine, okay, but it should have been a 1-season suspension.
I think so.
The 9-game suspension is the lenient part of that punishment, and obviously the courts were just incredibly weak, only fining him $850.
And suspending his licence for 9 months. He should have his licence suspended for years.
Yes.
Anyway, we're not going to hear more about Ezra Mam until...
Yeah, thankfully that saga is over.
Unless he does something else stupid.
Yeah, unless he reoffends, yeah.
But we're still on the Broncos. Because the war of words between Michael Maguire and Kevin Walters and his cronies continues.
Yeah, well, I mean... So what's happened is... Kevin Walters actually told Kobe Hetherington that he was free to leave the club. He actually said that to him. He said, yeah, you can go. He was unwanted. And now, interestingly, now that Michael Maguire's taken over, not only has he said to him, no, we want you to stay, so he's completely torched Kevin Walters' plans. He's actually considering starting Hetherington at lock and moving Pat Carrigan to prop. So let's remember that Kobe Hetherington's a player who has played 78 NRL games, all from the interchange bench. Not only does Maguire want to keep him at the club, but he wants to start him. And this is a player who's never started in 78 games. So this just shows a real... That's a real up yours from Michael Maguire to Kevin Walters.
He's only played under Kevin Walters, right? Kobe Hetherington. He's only played for the Broncos, yeah.
I'll just double check that right now. So Kevin Walters.
I don't have a computer because of Angus. He pulled my computer apart.
Kevin Walters
the hard drive back in. So Dan's the main man. I'm on my phone.
That's all right. Yeah.
Bloody
so
Angus.
actually, yeah, you're 100% right. So Kevin Walters had 4 seasons at the Broncos: 21, 22, 23, 24. Hetherington started at the Broncos in 21.
Yeah.
So he has only played under.
Kind of
Walters.
shows you that maybe Kevin Walters didn't know how to use the player. Because one of the things about criticism of Kevin Walters was communication, not understanding what players want to do and what's best for them. So we'll see how Kobe Hetherington.
Yeah, and he is the son of the great Jason Hetherington too, the former Bulldogs legend.
Funny if Kobe Hetherington ends up playing lock for. He's a Queenslander. Locks for Queensland.
Actually, it says here. I know his father's a Queenslander, but he was actually born in Sydney.
Oh.
Kobe Hetherington. So I'm guessing, he was born in 99. Well, that was when his dad was at the Bulldogs, so that explains that. That's why he would have been born in Sydney when his dad was playing at the Bulldogs.
When he played his first football or whatever. I don't
know. Yeah, look, I
don't even know how eligibility works.
Well, actually, it says here he played his junior rugby league for the Rockhampton Brothers. So maybe he is eligible for Queen. There's these tricky eligibility rules. He may be eligible for Queensland given that he played junior rugby league for the Rockhampton Brothers, but he was born in Sydney though.
That would be the funniest thing ever if Kobe Hetherington ends up playing lock for Queensland, starting lock for Queensland. But
yeah, so obviously Michael Maguire's seen something in him that Kevin Walters didn't see.
Michael Maguire's a bloody good coach, mate.
His record indicates that definitely.
Yeah, exactly. Over the last week, disturbing reports came out that Russell Crowe wants to sell half of his shares in the Rabbitohs, and people had been approached. It's no longer Peter Holmes at court, right? It's
so I'm glad you pointed that out. So there's. Crowe owns 25%, James Packer owns 25%, Mike Cannon-Brooks owns 25%, and the Rabbitohs members own 25%. So it's a 4-way arrangement.
Yeah, and because it was originally Peter Holmes at court, Russell Crowe and the Rabbitohs members, and then I think Peter Holmes at court and Russell Crowe had a falling out, and so he convinced his mate Packer to buy and stuff. But
Holmes at court sold his share in 2014, which coincidentally was the year where they won the premiership and broke that long premiership drought.
But then a couple of days later, or even the next day, Russell Crowe released a statement denying that he wanted to sell his shares. Yeah. Where there's smoke, there's fire. Yeah,
it doesn't just come out of nowhere, right?
I think if Russell Crowe hadn't have said anything, I didn't really believe it when it first came out. When the news article came out, I didn't really believe it. But then when Russell Crowe denied it, I started to believe it. I was like, if you had left it, I would have continued not believing it, But the fact that he came out, because that's how rugby league works. Whatever the press statement says, it's the opposite. Yeah. Full support of the coach. Well, that coach is sacked.
But to be fair to him, you do lose money, don't you, when you own these sports clubs? I read a good line in the paper the other day. They say, how do you become a millionaire? You become a billionaire and then own a sports club.
Yeah, it's true. They don't make money. Even if they're in the black, they don't make money. They don't make profits. When they're in their black, they're all basically not for profit. So when they're in the black, they just reinvest all that money back in. The only thing you can do is lose money or make no money. I don't know a sports team, but that's what I understand. You'll either lose money or make no money.
Yeah. So basically, you only do it if you've got very deep pockets and you're prepared to lose money because your heart is in the club so much that you're prepared to do that. Russell
Crowe's in hundreds millionaire kind of thing. He's got all these residuals.
Is he really?
He's got all these residuals from all these some of the greatest movies of all time. Kind of thing.
So he's done well.
As much as people want to historically with Russell Crowe, a lot of people have hated on him. South Park obviously did the most hilarious parody of him and stuff like that.
Was that where he threw the phone or something?
Yeah, when he threw the phone. Then they were watching. They were waiting for the Terrence and Phillip new episode, and while they were waiting, the show before was Russell Crowe travels around the world fighting people.
Yeah, according to CelebrityNetWorth.com, he has a net worth of $120 million. I don't know how accurate that is, but it sounds like maybe they're on the money.
$100 million is ridiculous amounts of money, and he bought the Rabbitohs for like $3 million.
Yeah, he did. Yeah,
it's when you fork out $3 million for something because you have $140 million, that $3 million is back in your bank account a few months later. So he gets residuals from Gladiator 2. So
and he wasn't even in that.
Yeah, but he's part of he was an executive producer or whatever, because that was probably part of his original agreement for Gladiator 1. He doesn't need the money. He's probably just trying to get out of it because, he did go through a divorce. Yeah, he went through a divorce.
Yeah, he did,
He lost half of everything there, so it would have been worth $240 million. That's one of the things, how do you become rich as a woman, marry a super rich person and divorce them? It's the 3 richest women in the world or something. All became that rich by divorcing Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk.
I think Paul McCartney's ex-wife did pretty well, didn't she?
Yeah. Melinda Gates recently became one of the richest women in the world. Yeah. But so he's not the thing was, I think he was selling it because he doesn't have time anymore. Was the rumor. So no love for it. Doesn't go to very many games, but he says his response. Crowe, is it? Yeah. His response was like, "No, I plan to go to a whole bunch more games now, and because he's doing less now as well." Is
he just over it? Maybe he's
just no point in having it. There's a lot of the other thing is actually these famous people have these business managers. If they don't have a business manager, that's when they lose all their money. Right, so they have these, and then sometimes they have a business manager that steals all their money. Jules' mum was her business manager, and Jules' mum stole $150 million from Jules, that singer. So that's.
I think there's something on Netflix about the Backstreet Boys had heaps of money.
There's a documentary series coming out that is about all of those, NSYNC, Backstreet Boys, all of those.
So they all got cleaned out by their managers.
Even things we're off track, but I remember the whole thing about Bardo. Remember Bardo?
Yeah. So they came off the TV show. Pop stars. Yeah, that's
so
right.
They were at their peak. They were making around $400 a week cash in hand, each of them. So they have these business managers, and it could just be his business managers looking and going bro, as I said, every year since he's owned it, it would have either lost money or made no money. So his business manager would have gone, this Rabbitohs deal you did is $3 million back in whatever it was, and so far you spent $6 million, just say, number totally made up. So no matter what, you always lose money from owning a sports team. But his shares are worth $20 million now. So his business manager could have gone, I might actually see if anyone wants to buy this, because then finally it makes a profit. But he's come out and said, "No, I'm not. I still don't believe him. I reckon he's gonna get rid of it."
Yeah, you'd have to think it's on the cards. That's the thing. Where there's smoke, there's fire. These things aren't just made up out of nowhere.
Exactly. And apparently, James Packer doesn't want it, so he doesn't want it anymore. And then there's the fear that actually he wants out as well.
Well, I'm surprised that James Packer ever got involved, because I'm not aware of him really being that
to Russell Crowe.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, it would have to have been, because I don't think James Packer has the passion for rugby league or the Rabbitohs.
He's also a Roosters fan, right?
And that's the thing. We've talked about how you just lose money if you buy these sporting clubs. So that means that if you are going to buy one, well, you got to be passionate about it. Otherwise,
rich do you have to be for your mate to come and go, dude, can you buy out this guy for millions of dollars even though you don't care or want it? It's like if we were at the shop and you're like, can you spot me for a hamburger? Yeah, sure, man. But Russell, can you spot for these shares in this football team worth millions of dollars? And Jamie Packer's like, sure.
Yeah, well, James Packer is worth $2.7 billion US dollars.
Billion is inconceivable. People don't really comprehend billion. You can't. You actually
he's
can't
not self-made, though, is he?
I had saw a thing actually yesterday about how to. What was it? It was like to calculate how ridiculous $1 billion is. You would, if you spent $1 million a day, it'd still take you, and made no extra money back, it'd still take you 3 years to spend all your money. $1 million a day. So if you bought a house a day in Sydney, well, studio apartment in Sydney, a day, you would still take 3 years and you would own like 1,000 houses. It's just... So, yeah, he definitely has... 3 million, sure. Can you take American Express Black? I want the points. For my free flights. I want to get a coffee maker from Qantas Points or something. Yeah, so we'll see what happens there. I think, possibly. But I don't think that off-field kind of stuff will also derail the Rabbitohs season or anything like that. That's not the kind of media that we've talked about it before. The off-field stuff doesn't affect us. Well, why is your team going so bad? But the Rabbitohs players were like, meh. It's not like the old days where, Russell Crowe would invite the whole team up to his farm and Luke Keary would get in a fight with him and catch a taxi home. It's not like those old days.
It does seem like he's more distant now and he's lost interest in it.
Why would the players care? Why would the coaches care? As long as the pay's coming in and they're playing, I don't think it makes sense.
As long as someone else buys it and covers the costs, what would they care?
If he really wanted to, as I said, it comes down to his business manager, but if he really wanted out, he's got enough money where he could just go, I'll just give the rest to the members. I'll give my share to the members, And that would make it even better. That would probably give the players a boost.
Yeah.
Anyway. And podcast extraordinaire Brandon Smith continues to podcast extraordinaire even during the holidays and continues to burn all of his bridges.
Yes. And reburn bridges. Bridges already burnt, get burnt again.
Criticised Melbourne Storm again for the second time.
Mm-hmm. We remember how he said that Ryan Pappenhausen was small and fragile.
Yeah, he's definitely not going to get another club.
Well, he's had another crack at the Storm. He has taken aim at Jonah Pezzett's decision to re-sign with the Storm. Of course, Jonah Pezzett is behind Jerome Hughes there as the backup half. And Brandon Smith saying, it's strange that Pezzett wouldn't want to move to a club. He was talking to the Newcastle Knights. I think Kalen Ponga met up with him and tried to woo him, tried to bring him to the Knights. But he's staying put. He's happy to stay there behind Jerome Hughes. I think there is a clause. There's a clause in his new deal stipulates that he can break his contract if Jerome Hughes re-signs. So that's the thing. That's why I think it's smart on Pezzett's part. I mean, the clause is there, and it seems like Brandon Smith has missed that. There's a clause there where he can get out if Jerome Hughes re-signs.
I would re-sign in Melbourne.
And that's the thing. It's smart on Pezzett's part. Melbourne are a well-run club, unlike Newcastle, who are a club who pay overs for players and go nowhere. Like Kalen Ponga, they're paid overs for him, and because he's taking up too much of their salary cap, they can't recruit enough around him, and they go nowhere. If he had gone to Newcastle, that's likely what his career would look like, playing for a club that misses the 8 most years and goes nowhere, as opposed to staying in a well-run machine like the Storm.
Stay at Melbourne Storm, become Jerome Hughes, or he can go to... if you choose to stay at Melbourne Storm, become Jerome Hughes, or go to Newcastle and hope that Kalen Ponga stays on the field, I know which one I'm picking.
He's only. The thing is, he's only 21.
I was going to say, isn't he only like 20 years old?
He's 21, and he's done it in the smart way of where if Hughes re-signs, he can leave anyway. So he's going to win either way. Either Hughes leaves and he'll be the new halfback at the Storm, which is obviously far better than being the halfback at Newcastle, or he can leave if Hughes stays there, and so then he can just leave at that point.
We've talked extensively about how few halves there are available, right? So he could get paid overs now to go to Newcastle, but the risk of that is he's becoming the main half too early, and ruining his career. I think he's really it's the smartest choice ever. Yeah. Stay at Melbourne, keep training, wait until you are halves don't become superstar halves usually... I know there's the outliers, people. Superstar halves, until they are in like their mid-20s, you know?
Yeah.
And there's a massive amount of halves that have too much pressure on their shoulders historically that have been put in too early, or, you know, been a bit young and not had that senior half because they're a halfback, and their career has gone not as people expected. So I think it's a really smart idea, and I think Brandon Smith, like, really, I've said many times, he just needs to keep his mouth shut.
And
Play
again,
some good football, but he can't.
And again, this is Brandon Smith, who he's on the outs with his current club. He's going to be injured for most of the season. His current club really don't want him. He's going through all these other clubs and burning bridges with them. He needs to have a look in his own backyard before he worries about what people like Jonah Pezzett are doing.
Dude, he needs to get a signature because he's not playing this year.
I'd much rather be in Jonah Pezzett's position than in Brandon Smith's position at the moment.
But Brandon Smith's not playing this year and needs a contract for 2026. The only thing that he can do for this year, because he's not playing, is be good in the media and then hope that someone signs him. If he continues to bag everyone, all the other clubs aren't going to be able to watch him play football and go, oh, Brandon Smith will fit in here. They have to. They can only judge him on his behaviour in the media, so they're going to see his behaviour in the media and go, oh.
And there's a quote here from Brandon Smith where he says, I feel like Jonah at his age as a half, you want to walk into a team and say, this is my team now. Hello, he's 21. He's talking like he's 27 or 28. Yeah. He's 21. There's a big difference.
At that age, you want to be hanging out with Jerome Hughes, learning how to be a half.
Yeah.
When you get like 24, 25, you can walk into a team.
Maybe if he was 24, 25, all right, but he's 21. Relax. And he's a young man.
At that 24, 25 mark, he's going to walk into a team, and then that team is going to be... It's a rebuild because he's a young half, you know? And then when you hit that 26, 27, that's when you're going to earn the team and probably lead it to a premiership. But yeah, Brandon Smith, man, come on, just zip it.
We have had a lot of Ezra Mam and Brandon Smith content recently.
Keeps Latrell Mitchell out of the news sometimes.
They're making Latrell look good, aren't they? He's looking like a choir boy at the moment.
How he's going right now. Probably get a check-in next week.
Yeah, he'll be back.
Can't last long.
He'll be back on the rundown soon.
Another one who can't stay out of the rundown is the bloody West Tigers.
Yes.
Oh my God. So West Tigers, we've said many times, they have so many problems, right? So many problems and they've changed everything in their entire club, rebuilt players, coaches, staff, CEOs, boards. The one thing they can't change is the fans, but they are putting their fans offside by charging ridiculous amounts of money for tickets.
Yeah, so this pre-season challenge match against Parramatta at Leichhardt Oval on February 21. So apparently, this is going to be a double header. Penrith and Manly are going to be playing that day at Leichhardt as well, so there's 2 games on. But apparently they didn't make it immediately clear that it was a double header. And even so, the ticket prices are still very high. So adult tickets range from $42 to $92. Remember, this is a pre-season challenge game.
At Leichhardt.
Yes, it's a nothing game. So $42 to $92 for adults. Whereas kids, juniors, aged between 5 and 15 years, tickets start at $29.
So my hill for my family would be 84 plus 60.
Yeah, I've actually got the family amounts here. Cheapest tickets for a family of 4, 2 adults and 2 juniors to attend the games at Leichhardt start at $114 and go all the way up to $257 for a pre-season game.
I'm spending $114 in tickets. I've then got to get my family to Leichhardt, which is a nightmare walking because there's no parking around there. Then, we're going to buy... Not going to take food in, so I've got to buy some lunch there. I'm looking at, minimum $30 each, so that's another $120. Drinks. So, it's a $250, $300 day. Because... So the tickets should... not be half of that. The ticket should be $10.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned $10. Well, in comparison, Manly's pre-season game against South 1 week earlier at Industry Group Stadium in Gosford has tickets starting at $10 for kids, and the most expensive reserve seating options for adults only setting supporters back $30.
So less than the cheapest tickets at Leichhardt.
Family tickets for 2 adults and 2 juniors are also at the much more affordable price of $75 for the game between Manly and South on February 15th.
Yeah, ridiculous. And the only thing West Tigers have that they have well is their fans. Don't put your fans offside.
It should be $10 for adults.
Kids are free.
Kids under 18 free.
Yeah.
For pre-season games, $10 adults, under 18s in free.
Like half the players aren't going to play, or there's going to be 22 people in the team, and they're going to interchange 600 times. Yeah, there's pre-season games are fun, but they're not.
Yeah. It's only 2 games a year. Look, you can take a little bit of a financial hit to do the right thing by your fans.
What it does is to your fans, if it puts in your mind, if this is the price of a pre-season game, how much are the regular season games going to cost? And this is the thing,
all the clubs seem obsessed with membership now. They're obsessed with membership to the point where they'll even say to fans, can you just please sign up with your email address on our website? And then they count those people as members, people who they've only got an email address from. They're so obsessed with boosting their membership count. This is not a good way of boosting your membership count, charging these huge prices for pre-season games. I reckon it's a good way to put people off becoming a member of their club.
Well, the only thing they've got going for them, the one thing that the Tigers should continue to do is take care of their fans. Because it's the only thing they got going for them. That they haven't changed.
Yeah.
You know, everything else doesn't work to fix that.
Yeah, well, you said it's the only thing they're going for. Right at the moment, I mean, we're hoping that there'll be improvement on the field this year. We really, and I know people say that, but look, I really hope they improve this year. I really do. I want to see noticeable improvement from them this year. But we haven't seen it yet, so it is the only thing they're going for them is their supporters at the moment.
So don't put them offside. And then your Bulldogs.
Yes.
Got the ultimate coup here. So they need power forwards. You know, they need big boppers. And they managed to sign the most sought after, basically, front rower at the moment for 2026. And I hear rumblings that he might be released early. They've managed to sign Leo Thompson for $825,000 a year.
Yeah, so and we should point out that the Raiders actually offered him $900,000 a year for 4 years as well. So he's decided to take a $75,000 a year, well, to take $75,000 a year less to go to the Bulldogs.
Ricky Stewart excuses incoming.
Then go to the Raiders on $900. He's gone to the Bulldogs for $825.
Travel so much.
Another Ricky Stewart excuse. That's another list we could put up here. Ricky Stewart excuses. But look, I know he's a gun front row. I know he's a New Zealand international already. But I mean, that's a lot to pay for a front rower. I have to say, like $825,000 a year for a front rower.
Well, that's kind of the going rate now for your linchpin forward. You know. I think that's around the going rate for one forward in your pack. That's going to be your main forward.
And maybe Gould has gone, well, we can pay that for one.
Yeah.
But they won't pay that anywhere near that for any of the others.
Because what it seems to me is, so the Bulldogs, I'm not being mean to the Bulldogs. I know how aggressive you fans are. Don't rumble me at Belmore. The Bulldogs forward pack is not the best forward pack, right?
No, they need front rowers.
Super inexperienced, and they're all on low wages. And this is your guy to come in and be your forward leader, and it really changes the dynamic of that forward pack. They did very well all year, defence-wise. They just fell away at the end of the year, lost all of their records. No team scored 30 points on them. Won every home game.
Yeah, and until the last couple of rounds, they had the best defence in the comp.
Yeah. They lost all that stuff, and they went to like third or fourth.
I think they were third in defence by the end of the season, but with a couple of rounds to go, they were They had even better. They had even better defence than Penrith with a couple of rounds to go.
Those last 2 rounds.
Yeah, they fell away at the end.
A big, strong, linchpin forward leader who's an international like Leo Thompson can come in and kind of prevent that from happening. And I think that's what it is. But as you said, that's the guy now. That's your forward. That's on 800 grand a year.
Yeah.
All the rest are going to be the 400, 500.
Yeah, they need to save the rest of the money for a fullback and a halfback.
A halfback, most assuredly. Yeah. So I think it's a good signing. He was the most sought after forward for 2026. So
you do feel like they are building nicely here.
Yeah,
they're slowly but surely putting the pieces of the puzzle together.
They got that fullback or the halfback. A fullback, half. They need a half, not even just a halfback.
I think the halfback is a higher priority than the fullback.
Yeah.
Connor Tracy can do a job for you at fullback. Toby Sexton, they need another halfback.
They need a half.
That's priority number one is a new halfback.
And that will make all the difference, I think, to premiership glory for the Bulldogs. The forward will help them overcome that end of the year drop off because it was a massive drop off.
They lost their last 3 games.
They had this thing all year that all the Bulldogs fans were going on about. Like they didn't have any losing streaks. That was one of the things. They didn't have a team score 30. They were the only team in the competition that didn't concede 30 points in a single game. They were the only team in the competition who won every game at home. That was the big thing the Bulldogs fans were all on about all year. Premiership glory!
Well, that's the thing. There was even, and we should point it out, and I know it may have, well, obviously in the end it was misguided, but there was even a feeling a month before the end of the regular season that they could even contend for the title here because of how good their defence was.
They had the potential to be 3rd or 4th, remember? But in that last 3 games, they lost that. They got smashed 3 times in a row, so they went on a 3-game losing streak, and I think 2 of them were at home.
They lost. Well, the final to Manly was at home. One loss to the Cowboys was at home as well. Actually, I think all 3 of those games they lost were at home. Bush. They lost because they lost to Manly twice. They lost to Manly in the second last round. Then they lost to the Cowboys at home. Then they lost to Manly. So all 3 were at home.
So that kind of thing, a good forward leader can kind of like inspire the younger forwards to overcome it. You know, once you get on that, even though it's a small losing streak, you can see what happened to the Bulldogs. They ended up coming 6th.
Yeah, they came 6th and lost in week 1 of the finals. Yeah, they did. All 3 of those games were at Accor Stadium. Lost to Manly, lost to the Cowboys, and then a loss to Manly again in the knockout final.
Everyone was so excited about those 3 stats. No losing streak, no conceding of 30 points, only team in the comp, and hadn't lost at home. And then in the last 2 rounds, all 3 of them were gone. And it was so bad that it took their defence from number 1 to number 3. So
they the season got too long for them. They couldn't maintain that level.
And a high quality power forward that will be your forward leader can change that dynamic.
Yeah,
I mean that was meant to be Kickow, right? That's what Kickow is, but he wasn't able to do it. So I think Leo Thompson coming in and being he
wasn't able to do it on his own.
Leo Thompson is a bit younger, more appealing. William Kicko's Kickow's like 28 now. He's an old man.
For a professional footballer, he's old.
I think he might even be 31.
He's 29,
29, yeah. So he's too old now. He can't appeal to these. And Leo Thompson's like 23, 24.
I'll look that up too.
What did he be? 23?
24.
Yeah, 24. There you go. So he can get those younger guys more. You know, I think he's a good signing. But and then I've heard some rumblings that Canberra want to let him go early to sign someone to replace him. So he'll be in the Bulldogs this year.
All right. I'm happy with that. Send him over.
And finally on rugby league, concussion is a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
Survey says...
Yes.
More than a third of NRL players are underreporting concussion symptoms. Idiots.
Yeah, the Players Pulse survey conducted by the Rugby League Players Association found more than a third of NRL players are underreporting symptoms and continuing to train despite increased club vigilance and education. Now, it seems the issue here is that, obviously games are heavily scrutinised. We got independent doctors, identifying players who had a collision and they come out of it concussed, etc., etc. But the problem is you don't have the same thing at training. At training, these measures are not in place, and so it seems like it's easier to get away with, oh, gee, I've copped a knock, but, I don't want to lose. Because this is the thing, a lot of players are just on the fringes, and something like that can be the difference between them getting picked on the weekend and not getting picked. and if they don't get picked and they don't play first grade, well, maybe when their next contract's up, they don't get re-signed. So it's a livelihood issue for a lot of players. Not everybody are the superstars where, if you get concussed, it's all right, just stand down for 11 days and you'll be back. For a lot of players, their livelihood depends on sneaking into the first grade side on the weekend.
Not hoping, but when a player does get concussed, superstar gets concussed and then stands themselves down.
That's their opportunity, right?
So it's like, I'm concussed, I can't play. All right, so I'm not concussed.
Yeah.
Bro, why did you just faint? Because there's so much research on concussions now, thank God. It used to be concussions were only caused by getting hit in the head. Now they realise concussions are caused by, whiplash, getting hit hard in the chest and causing your brain to move around. Even like things like the Neuralink, that Neuralink that they installed in that guy, the first Neuralink patient, I think there's 2 now, but the first one, they had to bring him in because some of the threads fell out or stopped working or something, and that's how they found out the brain changes in size because of that. Throughout the day, it just shrinks and grows or something. Like so much stuff, and that there's so much that can contribute to concussions because of that. And problem is, like, who was I listening to the other day? I can't remember. They were talking about how brain cells don't grow back. And so the later in life, there's a video of I can't remember who the fighter is, where is one of the one FC fighters or Bellator fighters, where you can listen to the beginning of his career versus the end of his career and how his speech becomes so broken. And it's because of the concussions. So it's bad that they underreport because they're not thinking about later in life. But as you said, it's because they're thinking about now.
Yeah, but a lot of people just aren't thinking ahead. They're not it's young men in their 20s and 30s are not thinking about what their life's going to be like when they're in their 50s and 60s and 70s.
My brother pointed out to me that the younger you are, the less further into the future you can see. We're talking about our kids. So, if you say to your kid, I'm going to take the tablet away tonight, like you have a 3-year-old or whatever, and you're not going to be able to watch your screen all day tomorrow, they won't care because they actually can't comprehend tomorrow. They can't comprehend the existence of tomorrow.
It's like when you're in your early 20s, you think you're going to live forever. Yeah, exactly. You don't think about your mortality.
As you get a bit older, you start to comprehend tomorrow or the weekend or whatever, but you still don't comprehend years and years in advance. It's not till you hit 35, 40 midlife that you start thinking like, man, I really got to take care of myself or I'm only going to live till I'm 70 and I've already lived more than half my life.
Yeah.
So these guys are like exactly like that. They're like shivers. Like I might lose my contract if I don't play this weekend. They can only see to the weekend or to the next year for the next contract. They can't see later in life. I don't know what clubs can do about it because it all then there's a counter argument. It all comes with an element of risk. That's part of who they are.
That's the sport.
Yeah.
If you're not prepared to take that element of risk, well, you shouldn't play.
Yeah, exactly.
So just a couple more interesting lines from that report. So 28% of players reported they returned to training before receiving a medical clearance. This is players who suffer like a knock or concussion. And it's created what the RLPA believes is a black spot with training less scrutinised than games where independent off-field doctors can order players suspected of suffering concussion from the field, which is what I was talking about before.
They can't go and hire 17 independent doctors and have them at training 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Because you also have to, you would then have to, I don't know how many registered players there are. You'd have to hire 400, and have to follow the...
But this is the thing, I mean, the club hires who goes to training.
Yeah.
Why is the club going to pay money, spend money on hiring people to do something that in their eyes works against them?
Yeah.
They want their players to be available.
There's no way to solve it because even then, when you think about it, the player is thinking, if I don't play and I tell them I'm concussed, I miss my chance and I won't get a contract. It's true. It's not untrue. That is actually what will happen. The player will not play and then not have enough games and then not get a contract and then their career is over.
That's the thing. You get dropped, someone else goes in instead of you. If they do a good job, you might not play again.
Exactly. So I don't think there's a solution. You know, it's just sad. Like that's terrible. But
it's just one of those things, isn't it? We're not living in a perfect world.
And then we talked about it before, like boxing and MMA and stuff like that. In some states have like 180-day stand down policies for concussions.
That's the thing. The 11-day stand down. It's very tokenistic, isn't it?
That's terrible.
But let's be honest. The NRL, they just don't want to be sued here. That's all they care about. Absolutely. Is we've got to be seen to be doing enough about this to not get sued later on. That's all it's about.
The club actually gets sued. You know.
Yeah,
it's always the organisation. The NFL had to pay out millions and millions and millions of dollars. Each individual club also had to pay out some, but the NFL is the thing that had to pay them all out. So it's the NRL implementing rules to say we are covered.
Yeah, and I'm sure this would continue to go on. There'd be players who they get concussed in a game, but they're just not picked up by the independent doctors or whoever, and clubs would just go, oh yeah, keep that on the hush hush. We want to pick you next week.
No different to like having tears in your arms and legs and things like that, where later on in life you're not able to walk properly because you have arthritis.
Yeah,
like that also happens. Concussions are just big in the news and stuff because of CTE, Will Smith movies, and lawsuits. The things with stuff like torn ligaments or slight tears that they continue to play with, or someone played with a broken arm and things like that, players could still potentially sue for them. My club encouraged me to keep playing when I had a slight tear in my ACL, and now I'm 40 years old and I can't walk properly. They should. But it all has to be classified in that thing, concussions inclusive. I guess I don't know. There's no solution I can see. It's just really bad that all these guys play while they're concussed. That's it for rugby league, but don't worry, there'll be more next week.
Yes.
Pre-season starting soon.
Yeah.
Australian Open started on Sunday.
Yes.
What is it? 9 out of 12 Aussies have gotten through their first round. And our best friend, Nick Kyrgios,
is not one of them.
He wasted a spot in the Australian Open.
Yeah.
Apparently he had a stomach injury but wanted to keep playing for his fans to come see him. Whatever, bro.
He was just planting the seed for an excuse after he got beaten, obviously. I watched the match. I thought, was it Jacob Fernley, his opponent, he was great. He did really well. Won in straight sets, Fernley, 7-6, 6-3, 7-6. Kyrgios, he just looked like he didn't want to be there. His body language was off. He looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. That's what I don't get, where in the press conference he says, I just wanted to do it for my fans. And I thought, well, you didn't show any willingness to be there. You look like you didn't want to be there. And what I really don't understand about the fans is they're really wild, these Kyrgios fans. I thought it was terrible how they cheered when Fernley would serve a fault or a double fault. The crowd would cheer. That's just terrible behaviour by the crowd. Terrible tennis etiquette. You only cheer when your player hits a good shot. You don't cheer when the other player makes a mistake, especially not serving a fault, something like that. That was terrible from the crowd. And what I don't get about the crowd at Kyrgios' matches, they were going nuts when all he was doing was staying on serve in the third set. And he went on to lose the third set anyway. He lost the match in straight sets. They were going nuts when he was just holding serve. It's over the top the way they cheer for him. Do these fans not realise that he couldn't care less about them? He does not care about you. Why are you getting behind him so much? He couldn't give a stuff about you, so you should turn your back on him.
It was Andy Roddick who said he's just there for the comments, right?
Yeah. That was I actually did an article on that. Yeah.
That's what he's there for. He's there for the comments. He's at the Australian Open so he can get more Instagram likes. And then he said, this is probably the last time I'm ever going to play here, and frankly, good.
Yeah, he said he thinks that'll be his last singles match at the Australian Open. And that's good. And he also said, oh, look, I'm going to play at all the majors this year. Well, no, he won't play at the French. He can't be bothered with the French Open because the slow surface at the French slows down his serve, so he doesn't perform well at the French Open. So I can guarantee you he's not going to be bothered playing at the French Open.
Surely he has to qualify.
Oh, well, I think because he was injured, he does have a protected ranking. There's a protected ranking where he can get in using that. And even if he didn't have that, unfortunately, I hate to say it, he does draw in new fans to the sport. So if he didn't have the protected ranking, he would get wild cards anyway. But, yeah, so that's it. Kyrgios is gone. It was a waste of time comeback. He lost in the first round of the Brisbane International as well to that Mpechi Pericard, the very impressive Frenchman who outserved him. I think it was 36 aces to 15. So this is the problem when you have a couple of years off from your sport. You come back and you come up against 21-year-olds like Mpechi Pericard, who at Kyrgios of all people, he outserved him 36 aces to 15. A very impressive performance from Mpechi Pericard in that match as well. But yeah, Kyrgios gone from the Australian Open. Well done to Jacob Fernley. Really good performance. And I think he could be, a future Andy Murray. And I don't think that's a too bold a call of the way he played last night.
The crowd should give themselves an uppercut.
Yeah, well, I mean, Fernley showed the crowd, and I'm glad he did. There was an up yours to the crowd, and they deserved it. The way they were carrying on.
I don't understand when people became Nick Kyrgios fans, because for years everybody's hated on him because they know he's a douchebag. And then all of a sudden this year he comes back to the Australian Open and we've got to bag it's not his fault. It's not his fault Nick Kyrgios has gone bad compared to the rest of the field, and it's not his fault that he was the first player that had to knock Nick Kyrgios out.
And Nick Kyrgios is a narcissist who could not care less about the people there supporting him. So he doesn't care about you. You shouldn't be, supporting him to the degree where you're cheering the other players serving faults. It was just pathetic the way all he was doing was holding serve he was just staying level pegging in one set, and they were going nuts. Yes. And then he ended up losing that set anyway. He didn't win a set. He lost in straight sets.
Absolutely smashed.
So well done to Jacob Fernley, and Nick Kyrgios may never play again.
Damn. Such a shame.
And I don't think we're crying about that somehow.
And still on Nick Kyrgios.
Yes.
So Cruz Hewitt, he's qualified. He's in, right?
No, so he got into the qualifying. He got a wild card into Australian Open qualifying. And he did lose in the first round of qualifying. And look, I know there's some people who are up in arms about Cruz getting the wild card and saying, well, people ranked 200 to 300 should have got to look in first. Look, that's life, okay? He's Leighton Hewitt's son. This is life. This is life. If you're Leighton Hewitt's son, you're going to get a wild card into qualifying. That's just the way it is. Nobody cares about, I'm sorry, but nobody cares about the players ranked between 200 and 300. They don't.
I couldn't name a single one. Nick Kyrgios.
People are more interested in watching Leighton Hewitt's son play, who's ranked 1,200 or 1,300, than they are in watching someone ranked between 200 and 300 because he's Leighton Hewitt's son.
As far as I'm concerned, it's the same as Nick Kyrgios getting into the Australian Open without having to qualify. If you're going to put Nick Kyrgios in the Australian Open without having to qualify, then Cruz Hewitt can get into a qualifier on the back of his name.
That's the thing, and at least Cruz Hewitt put in 100% and didn't look like he didn't want to be there.
Nick Kyrgios bagged him because he trained with
Yannick Sinner.
My nemesis, Yannick Sinner.
Yeah, but I'm sure even you can admit that this is way out. I mean, seriously.
I was talking about when we're talking about the GOAT, why isn't John Jones on there as the GOAT, right? I am a constant critic of John Jones being actually the GOAT of... he's widely considered the GOAT by most people. I don't think he is because he's a drug cheat. Okay? John Jones. I don't like John Jones because he's a drug cheat. He also hit a pregnant woman with his car and ran away and all these other things, beat his wife and blah, blah, blah. But from purely a sporting perspective, he's a drug cheat. If somebody said to me, hey, we got an opening to train with John Jones, do you want it?
Yeah.
I would say, for anything in the world.
Yeah. You'd put that to one side. Yeah. You'd have him down in your gym.
Yeah, 100%. There's no denying it, any way, shape, or form. Doesn't matter who it is, no matter how much. In my period of disliking Novak Djokovic, if someone said, hey, Novak saw you in the crowd and said, do you want to come have a hit?
Yeah.
I'm there.
I'd love to have Novak Djokovic down at my tennis centre playing.
And, I would play tennis with Novak Djokovic and I would play tennis with Yannick Sinner. Chris Hewitt is a tennis player. Of course he's going to play tennis with Yannick Sinner if Yannick Sinner says, hey, do you want to have a hit?
Yeah, and so all that happened was, just to clear it up for people, all that happened was Chris Hewitt had a hit with Yannick Sinner. What a great opportunity for a 16-year-old kid who's hitting with probably his idol, someone he'd look up to. So all he did was posed in a photo with Yannick Sinner, posted it on his social media, and Nick Kyrgios trolls the comments and says, love your Cruz, but this is wild. And then he said, thought we were boys, and then posted a number of broken heart emojis and said, cooked post with a needle emoji as if to make reference to Yannick Sinner's drug scandal in the post. That's just, you know it as well as anyone. You're an expert on social media. That's just inviting the trolls to come and give it to Cruz Hewitt, a 16-year-old.
Yeah, Chris Hewitt's 16. I would hope that he doesn't manage his own social media. And I like the Joe Rogan thing. Don't read the comments. Because Nick Kyrgios is there for the comments. And he's a douchebag.
And you mentioned that. So it was a quote from former world number one Andy Roddick, who said, at this point he is a tennis influencer. He lives for likes. He lives in the comments section.
Yeah, it's so ridiculous. Like, honestly, Nick Kyrgios... If Yannick Sinner asked Nick Kyrgios, do you want to have a hit? Nick Kyrgios would say yes. I have no doubt in my mind. No doubt in my mind. Look, I'm really on the side, as you know, of that Yannick Sinner is a drug cheat. And I think he should have been banned for longer, and it's total bullcrap. But even if he is a drug cheat, those drugs don't make you better at tennis, actually. Steroids don't make you more knowledgeable about tennis. It's just like I said, John Jones wanted to have a wrestling session at my gym. The steroids don't make him better at wrestling. They make him stronger and recover faster. But his knowledge about wrestling is something that I would love to have. And striking, but I don't really care about striking.
Yeah.
Striking's for weirdos, but wrestling.
Cruz Hewitt is a 16-year-old tennis player who's looking to make it big. Well, he's going to use his father's name to get hits with players like Yannick Sinner, and you can't blame him. Of course you're going to take an advantage like that you have over everyone else.
He's the world number one, right?
It's going to... Yannick Sinner, yeah. It's going to... Being the son of Leighton Hewitt is going to give you more opportunities than if you weren't the son of Leighton Hewitt in the tennis world. And Cruz Hewitt would be mad not to take that advantage and opportunities like having a hit with someone like Yannick Sinner.
My most hated UFC fighter is actually probably Israel Adesanya. I hate him. I think he's an 8-year-old. It's like an 8-year-old kid who just learns swear words. He doesn't know how to use them properly.
Yeah.
But again, if someone said to me, hey, Israel Adesanya's coming into town and he wants to come to your gym and train, I'd be like, sweet. I mean, he's not good at jiu-jitsu, but sweet, come along to the beginner striking class and give the striking boys some tips.
Yeah.
And I'll give him some tips on jiu-jitsu and how to do actual jiu-jitsu. But it doesn't matter. Like if it's your sport and you can take that knowledge and get better, of course you're going to do it. As I said, I'm 100% certain if Yannick Sinner had asked Nick Kyrgios to warm up with him, he would have done it. Because Nick Kyrgios is just all about the internet, what he looks like on the internet.
He just wants to be popular, doesn't he?
With Yannick Sinner, they've set that doping hearing, appeal hearing date, which will be the 4th of April, is it?
Actually, it's the 16th and 17th of April,
I think it was in April.
Yeah, so that'll be at the Court of Arbitration for Sport, April 16 and 17. That's WADA appealing the ITIA clearing of Sinner after he tested positive twice for the banned steroid Cluster Bowl in March last year. Novak Djokovic is not happy about it. Some quotes from him. He says, I've been really frustrated, as have most of the other players, that we've been kept in the dark for 5 months. Sinner, received the news of the positive tests in April, and the announcement was not until August, just before the US Open. The ATP has not really talked in depth about why they kept that case away from the public. Novak Djokovic has got a good point here.
I reckon now, based on that, I think we talked about it just before the end of the year, WADA releasing that statement last year in August. Did you say August? Came out in August?
Yeah, just before the US Open, which he went on to win.
WADA released a statement in August about how USADA had been letting players continue, or people across sports continue to test positive as long as they turn people in. I think that the timing of that is very... If one organisation does it, you can be sure that other organisations are doing the same thing. Now, I'm not accusing Yannick Sinner of dobbing other people in, but I totally agree with Novak Djokovic, given that USADA has been apparently for years letting people continue to test positive, knowingly take steroids as long as they turn other people in. These drug testing organisations are meant to hold themselves to the level of like WADA, right? And it's just continues. It's been happening since the 1980s when Russia started. The Russian WADA representatives started cheating, and WADA can't do anything. WADA is unable to stop these. You don't know what are Novak Djokovic is right? Why did they keep it so?
That's where suspicions grow, where you're not transparent with the public. If they had come out at the very time, and said what happened, well, then you could have at least gone, well, at least they're being honest and transparent about it. But why did they keep it under guard for 5 months?
And yeah, exactly. Combine that with the fact that now we know that some sporting organisations or doping organisations around the world allow people to continue to compete. And don't release
I think you said that about USADA, didn't you?
USADA.
Yeah.
WADA released a statement about USADA. They've been doing it for years, apparently. And then you have things like, see, in the UFC, before they got rid of USADA and went with drug-free sport, apparently, which they own some of, they suddenly released this thing where they were like, we're not going to tell people when people fail drug tests anymore. A few years ago, after John Jones tested positive for drugs and got a very short sentence. And the press release was really vague about how he might be cooperating, you know?
Yeah.
And then he was able to compete, even though he kept testing positive. That was with USADA. So it's Novak Djokovic is fully right. It's suspect as hell.
Yeah.
And like this, the fact that they had to wait till 1 year later for the appeals, WADA is obviously trying to go around now and like urgently clean up all of these people and say like, dude, you have to... This is the standard we hold world sports to. And you guys are all way down here. At tennis especially, like, as much as I hate Kyrgios, he's completely right about all this nonsense. Like, what has Swiatek got? Which one was it? Was Halep got 9 months? Swiatek
so Halep got a 9-month ban, but it was effectively 18 months because she hadn't played for 18 months when they decided to... I think she originally got banned for 4 years... But it was after she hadn't played for 18 months that they said, oh no, you've only got a 9-month ban. And it's like, well, I haven't played for 18 months, so it may as well have been an 18-month ban. So you may as well call the Halep ban an 18-month ban. Swiatek only got a month. Yannick Sinner only got prize money from the tournament and ranking points from the tournament.
They're all supposed to be banned. The acceptable amount of performance-enhancing drugs, and there's a list of the drugs, in your system is 0, according to WADA. So WADA is now, I guarantee you, WADA is sitting there, hate to be the fly in the boardroom wall there, just going, I don't know what to do, guys. Like, we've set these standards and we can't go into every country, into every sport in the world. All these sports are supposed to adhere to these regulations, and then the organisations they hire to do it, just do whatever they want. Because the steroids and WADA and stuff also comes down to gambling, actually. That's one of the things about it, right? The reason they exist, how to become a professional sport and an Olympic sport, is to have drug testing in place.
Yeah.
To be listed on gambling where you make money from gambling, you have to be a professional sport, and you have to be registered with your country or whatever as a professional sporting organisations, and then bookmakers can put you on the thing. So, like, it's a really big issue. If I was WADA, and I was looking at these things, I would start looking to removing the, certification or whatever, saying this is a drug-free sport, on tennis and other organisations like it, and so they would lose things like their gambling revenue and stuff. 4th of April is ridiculous. That's a year after, and like I've said before, the longer it takes, the less likely they are to strip titles because it's too much.
Yeah. I would point out about Nick Kyrgios, though, that he does get on his moral high horse about this, but let's remember that he did plead guilty to assaulting his ex-girlfriend. No conviction was recorded against him, but he did plead guilty to assaulting his ex-girlfriend, so... Yeah. So maybe we should be a bit wary when certain people get on their moral high horse about something.
I can agree with him about the fact that drugs should be banned and Yannick Sinner should have got a worse thing, but I can disagree with him about everything else in his life.
Yeah.
It's a broken clock is right twice a day.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Nick Kyrgios will probably be right twice in his life. Maybe, if he's lucky. He's finally found one thing that I agree with him on. Finally, with tennis... This criticism around Rafael Nadal and Andy Murray retiring. Andy Murray retired for the second time, so I don't know what criticism they could be about it. Technically retired.
So this is Alexander Bublik, who's at the time of this story this happened over our break. So at this time he was world number 33. He might be a little bit different to that. He might have moved around a bit since then, but at that time he was world number 33. So, he's had a go at Rafael Nadal and Andy Murray. He believes that they went on too long, they retired too late. Some quotes from Bublik. He says, "What happened with Andy Murray and Rafa is a circus. I can't call it any other way. Even we as fellow tennis players used to look at them with our mouths open in the locker room, and then you see them bald and old," is what he said. He says, "You understand they are past their prime and will never be as good again. In my view, it's not even a circus, but a disgrace." That's probably a better word. Okay, I think disgrace is a bit much. Just settle it down. That's going too far. You can rightly say that they went on too long. I think they did.
Yeah, they did.
But to say it's a disgrace, that's going too far.
I think he shouldn't talk until he comes to that point in his life, to be honest. We've talked about it before with Rafael Nadal. It's really hard for athletes to retire and accept the fact that they're done. Like, BJ Penn in the UFC is one of the greatest mixed martial artists of all time. I think he was a champion in 2 divisions, not at the same time, but in 2 different divisions. He was unstoppable. Really, it would be... One of the things about him was he just didn't slow down. So from the moment the first bell rang in the first round, he was... moving at 140% speed. 5th round, you would see it in the fighters, like his opponent's face. Get to the third, even the 3rd, 4th round, and they're just sitting there across the ring in the break, the octagon in the break, going, "How does he have so much energy? I am so out of energy," right? And then he continued and lost 8 in a row. He retired too late. But it was just because he couldn't give up. Tony Ferguson was the boogeyman of the lightweight division. Won 13 in a row. Was meant to fight Khabib Nurmagomedov to break both of their winning streaks. Fight fell apart 5 times. He's lost his last 7. Because he just can't give up. Still posting on Instagram how it's champ shit only and he's going to continue and he's going to be the champ. Bro, retire. Right, really, we all want you to retire, okay? Yeah. But then there's the flip side is like George St. Pierre's in the UFC, retired at the exact same time, exact right time. Right? He knew it's time to get out. Writing was on the wall. But until these athletes hit that point, like Andy Murray retired before.
That's the thing. You're right. He retired after the 2019 Australian Open. He said, "I'm done," and then he ended up playing for 6 more years.
Yeah, because they go out into the real world and they don't know how to function in the real world. Because they no longer need to wake up at X time every morning, they have people to eat, telling them what to eat, stuff like that. So when elite athletes retire, a lot of them just become like fat, out of shape, kind of like depressed, everything, because their lives are very different to people's lives. They're not in the real world.
That's why I know Nadal and Andy Murray got a lot of money. It's going to be hard for them to make the adjustment, though, because you can't just sit around counting your money all day.
Exactly.
You got to be productive with your time. They have to
find something. And so that's why he can... Until Bublik is at that stage, he shouldn't really comment on it in the way he has. You could say it's a shame they should have retired earlier. Everyone knows... You know when somebody should have retired earlier, right? In all sports, because they didn't retire earlier.
Yeah. But it's like you wonder about people who are very wealthy. You go, well, why are they still working? Like someone like Elon Musk, right? It's because he needs something to do. He needs to be productive with his time. He can't just sit at home counting his money. He's not that personality.
Yeah, Yeah, exactly. So you don't know. Like, they don't know because, as I said, we all know they should have retired earlier. You know how you know they should have retired earlier? Because they should have retired earlier. You can't wait till afterwards.
Nadal shouldn't have played the 2024 French Open. He took the court against Zverev. He lost in straight sets to Zverev. He's the king of the centre court at the French Open. He took the court and lost in straight sets to Zverev. That's no way for an icon of the sport to go out. And as I said, Andy Murray's played on for 6 years after he originally retired. So Bublik also had a go at Murray joining Novak Djokovic's coaching team. He says now he has joined Novak Djokovic's team. These are attempts to cling on to something that no longer exists, to some echoes of the past. I think that's a bit harsh. I think he's allowed to go into coaching.
Yeah.
Coaching's a different job to playing. He's doing a different job. You can't have a go at him about that. That having been said, I think the sentiment, while he went too far saying it's a disgrace and he went too far saying that he shouldn't be coaching Djokovic, I don't know what he's going on about there. I think the sentiment is generally right, though. Those two did go on too long.
Yeah, they definitely did. There's no denying it. But as I keep saying, like, you only know someone's gone on too long when they go on too long.
That's the thing, and they probably need to know, like someone like Nadal, who he won his last two majors in 2022 when he won the Australian Open and the French Open. It wasn't as if he was just going to retire after the 2022 French Open. He needed to see that he was done first. He needed reassurance that, right, I'm not going to win another one, and it took him a couple of years longer than that to come to that realisation.
If he had have retired in 2022, you don't know if he retired too early.
Yeah, then you'd be going, he could have won more. Yeah. And that's a and given, the GOAT race and everything, well, you're in his position. You don't want to retire knowing you could have won more because you're chasing greatest of all time tag.
You can never legitimately know if someone retired too early. And you can never legitimately know if someone retired at the right time. You can only legitimately know if they went on too long. And the only way to know it is if they go on too long.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's right.
You can criticise them all you want, but until Bublik is in that situation, he doesn't need to go so far. You just state the simple facts. They went on too long.
Yeah.
That's it. They did. Yeah. Both of them. Andy Murray, definitely. He should have known.
Yeah, Andy Murray was worse than Nadal. Yeah. He went on far too. At least Nadal won majors in 2022. Yeah. I mean, that's not that long ago.
Andy Murray should have known.
Yeah.
But he could have come back and won 30 majors. You'd never know. Like, pigs might fly. Aliens can land on the White House lawn. Andy Murray wins 30 majors. You don't know. So he doesn't know until he does it, and then he knows. But he should have known a lot earlier, Andy Murray. Like, he really should have known a lot earlier. He shouldn't have played that extra...
6 years after retiring in 2019?
It should have been one more, like Rafael Nadal, and then like, oh, no.
Yeah.
So cricket happened. The summer of cricket's over now. BBL's still on. Finals are next week. Yeah. But the summer of cricket, the important cricket finished.
The test cricket,
What an interesting entire series.
Yeah, I think that's the most interesting gripping series we've had in Australia for a very long time.
Yeah, there's so much stuff happened. It's a lot to get into. But Australia ended up winning 3-1.
Yeah.
One of the games was called off, right? Like, finished early because of rain. The Queensland.
Oh yeah, the Brisbane test was drawn largely because it was rain affected. Yeah.
Neither of the teams could bat. It seemed for the most part. Some super low scores, like all out for 156 and stuff like that. Neither of the teams could bat. But the attack was like amazing. I had one great conversation about the series. For 4 games, it was Bumrah versus Australia, and then Bumrah got injured, and India had to step into his place. Big mistake.
Yeah, India really found out there once Bumrah went down injured in that last
Once India
test.
had to step up and actually start playing, because Bumrah wasn't there anymore, India had no chance.
I mean, we may as well do these next 2 items together because they're about Virat Kohli, a couple of incidents with him.
Well, the entirety of country of India has turned against Virat Kohli, so he's got a billion people who are angry at him.
Well, he came across as a real sore loser. We had that incident where he shouldered Sam Constas. When Sam Constas got under India's skin in that debut innings at the MCG on Boxing Day, made 60 off 65 balls, played all these ramp shots. It was very impressive.
Yeah, played T20.
Yeah, it was very impressive. And Virat Kohli couldn't take it, and so he shouldered Sam Constas. That's just not on making physical contact with a player on the cricket field. This is not rugby league or AFL. This is cricket.
I did an Instagram story where I pointed out, so the whole stupidity of it was Virat Kohli changes his course, shouldered Sam Constas. Sam Constas turned around and said something to him, which was like, it was like a query, like, you're right, like, what are you doing? And then Virat Kohli had the audacity to get angry at Sam Constas. This is, in any other sport, that would have been a slap upside the head. Luckily, cricket is a gentleman's game. Because that's what Virat Kohli needed. Like, he needed a smack on the head. Like, are you alright? Like, you don't get angry because I question you shoulder charging me because I just made you look like fools. And he did. He made them look like fools.
Yeah, and it was an extremely lenient punishment too that he got, which won't surprise us. The match referee went very soft on him, gave him a fine of 20% of his match fee. That's nothing for someone like him. And one demerit point, but he didn't. I think he should have been suspended for a test match at least.
He touched another player.
Yeah, and then we go. You look at. I did an article about it at the time. Steve Smith and Dave Warner got a 12-month ban for the sandpaper scandal, and I know Cricket Australia handed out that ban, not the ICC, but still, like, they're playing the same game. Yeah. Those two got a 12-month ban for sandpaper on a ball. He makes physical contact with a player and gets a ban of no games, a 20% match fee fine, and one demerit point.
Even the Indian fans thought he should have been banned. You know.
Yeah, I mean, I know Cricket Australia banned Smith and Warner. I get that, and I know it was the match referee who hands out the sanctions for Kohli. But Cricket Australia at the time thought it was a serious enough offence to come over the top of any ICC sanctions and hand out the ban to Smith and Warner. But India have not done the same thing with Kohli. They've just let the match referee's punishment run, and we keep going here after he makes physical contact with a player.
It's cricket. You're not allowed to touch the other players.
No. And then we had that sandpaper. In the last test, he pulled his empty pockets out as if to mock the sandpaper scandal because he knew they were getting beaten. What a sore loser Virat Kohli is.
So it's like, I'm losing, so I'm going to make fun of you.
Yeah. It's schoolboy stuff. Schoolboy stuff.
That doesn't make you win the war of words, you know.
No, it was pathetic. I know we're going down here, so I'm going to insult you on the way out.
You can only win the war of words if the game is close, right? Yeah. If the game was close, and then Australia was doing their banter, and India had the banter, and he had done his sandpaper gate thingy mockery there, and the game was close, it would have been a lot more funny.
Yeah.
But the fact he was getting smashed, so it looked petulant. And that's what it was. He acted like a petulant child the whole series.
Yeah.
Like, totally, like, from the very beginning, he's not in form. He did get a century.
But apart from that, I think it was a pretty lame series.
He's obviously on the way out, and he's holding on to his spot through sheer force of, like, just because he's Virat Kohli.
And I think I get the feeling that the other players in the team, I think they're a bit scared of him. I think I don't know if that's good for them either. I think they're not relaxed enough because they're not relaxed. I think he makes his teammates feel uneasy. That's the impression I get from the outside looking in. I don't know that for sure, but from the outside looking in, he seems like he's a bit of a bully.
Yeah.
And I think his teammates would probably prefer it if he wasn't in the team. And they'd enjoy the cricket more if he wasn't in the team.
Coming to the end of his career simply because he used to be King Kohli, like the whole entire Indian, he was India's hero, but now the social media chatter from Indian fans is just like they're sick of him, they want him gone. Poor form, like a lot of the criticism was around his behaviour. Like it's kind of like a lot of the criticism was like, he's acting like an idiot. He did this thing to St. Constas. He's just like acting like a child, and he's in bad form.
Yeah, and
he's not scoring.
Yeah,
I think if he was scoring, a lot of the fans would be like able to overlook his being an idiot. But the simple fact is, he's acting like an idiot, and he's not doing anything contributing.
I think the thing for India is that unfortunately for them, they don't have an Ashes series. So their Ashes series is against Australia. That's their biggest test series is the Border Gavaskar Trophy against Australia. So perhaps now's the time for them to rebuild for the next Border Gavaskar series. And as I say, the Border Gavaskar Trophy is India's Ashes series. And they need to build for the next Border Gavaskar series, and maybe they do without Virat Kohli here in that rebuild for the next Border Gavaskar series.
Yeah, and they got to keep Bumrah wrapped in bubble wrap so he doesn't get injured at all, so he can carry the team.
I'm sure Indian supporters would say the Test series against Australia is the biggest series for
sure.
Yeah.
Either that or Pakistan.
Yeah, but they don't play against Pakistan in Test cricket, so
they also. They rarely play.
But Pakistan would be if they played them, but they don't play them.
And finally, let's talk about Sam Constance. So he had a super impressive debut innings.
Yeah.
And he did, as you said, he did the ramp shots 3 in a row against Bumrah. He played in 2020. But then from the second innings on that first test, Bumrah got the read on him. I think he got
well, Bumrah bowled him in the second innings of the MCG, made just 8. And then in Sydney, he failed both times, making 23 and 22. And I just wanted to point out that I was watching that Boxing Day test. I was watching it with a mate. And we were sort of saying to each other, he's taking a lot of risks here. And they're all coming off for him. These ramp shots, these sort of sweep hook shots that he was hitting. Everything was working for him that day, but you're just thinking, geez, there's quite a few of them that he's missed that are just missing the stumps, quite a few that have just gone past the edge of his bat. On another day where luck's not running for him, he's not going to be making 60. And sure enough, in his 3 innings since then, he hasn't made a score. He's failed 3 times.
I think he's got to work on learning how to play Test cricket as an opener. Like, there's that first one was... I think, to me, when because I watched a lot of it on the first day, but to me, it looked like... You know when in rugby league, a halfback goes down and the team has to debut a brand new halfback, or like a Jared Hayne comes in and scores 11 tries in 4 games. And it's because no one has video on him.
Yeah.
You know, no one knows how he's going to behave. And then the next year... They don't go very well. So Test cricket is very quick turnaround, if you will, a few days. So that's kind of like what it was. Sam Constance was able to go out there and just do whatever he wanted because they didn't have Test experience with him. He doesn't have Test experience, but they didn't either. But then they got him. They got the read on him. They learned very quickly. Test cricket's, like I said, a quick turnaround for how quickly you can get the read on him. And they showed it. So he's got to now... rebuild himself because he played that first innings like it was a 2020.
That's the thing, and you sort of said to yourself, like I said to myself watching that first innings, this is like a 1 in 10 performance. If he were to do the exact same thing in 10 innings, in 9 of them he gets out very early. Yeah, exactly. This is the one. This happens to be that 1 in 10 where it comes off for him and he gets to 60. But the truth is, in the end, he only averaged 28.25 for the series. 4 Australian batsmen had better averages than that for the series. And if you want some context, that's only just more than Marnus Labuschagne for the series, who averaged 25.77, and Usman Khawaja, who averaged 20.44 for the series. We were talking all series about how those two were underperforming. He's only just averaged more than them. Who cares if you can play a few ramp shots if you're only averaging 28 in Test cricket?
Like I said, I opened up this whole thing with the batting was bad for both teams, and it was like Sam Constance's 1 innings was a highlight.
It was
in a series of lackluster batting.
It was. But you've only got 6 batsmen in your team, and 4 of them averaged better than him for the series.
So he needs. I just think they need to sit him down and build him into a Test player. But he's going to go back to 2020, hopefully, and score crap tons of points in the Smart Play Fantasy League for the players. Yeah, I think they need to sit him down and teach him how to be an opener for... You can't... Openers in Test cricket don't score 60 off... What was it? 60 off 68 balls every
60 off 65, yeah, that's the thing. It came off for him.
It's 60... 60 is good, but it's off 100. It's not ramp shots, and you can do that in 2020 because the guy's going to come out in a minute. It's all right to only get 20 Like 22 in 2020 is all right.
But that's the thing. If you play that high risk every time, well, you are only going to be averaging 28, and that's not enough.
Yeah, it's not.
You need a minimum average, I would say, of 38.
Yeah.
And that's your bare minimum. For a batsman in Test cricket, your bare minimum is 38. 28's not enough. I know it's only 2 tests. As I said in that article, the innings at the MCG on debut will be enough to get him picked for Sri Lanka, the 2 test series coming up there. But beyond that, there are no guarantees. If he fails, if he doesn't get a big score in those 2 tests, he might be on the chopping block. Look at Nathan McSweeney. And you might think, oh, that's a bit harsh too early. Nathan McSweeney only had 3 tests, and he got chopped.
Yeah.
So it doesn't
He's
take...
up in the BBL, by the way.
It doesn't. And so Steve Smith's very impressive innings the other night. But it doesn't take long before you're on the chopping block. It's a cutthroat business. I know he's only 19, but, you know.
Yeah, that's the cricket. Australian cricket right now is in a massive rebuild for the past, 3-4 years. So they are chopping and changing players a lot.
That's the thing, and they've got an Ashes series next summer, and they've got an eye on that, and they've got to get it right for that, because, and I know England's record is terrible out here. I understand that. But England they are getting better, England, so they can't be taken lightly. I know we're the favourites. I'm not saying we're going to lose that series, but we can't take them lightly.
No, definitely not.
No. It is an Ashes series.
So yeah, hopefully these Sri Lanka matches we see a bit of improvement in Test cricket behaviour from youngsters.
And Australia confirmed they're in the World Test Championship final to be played against South Africa in the middle of the year. I think it's in June at Lords. I'm pretty sure.
Lords, yeah. And so if they can convert Sam Constance into a proper Test opener by then, maybe his averages will improve.
Yeah.
And that's it for the week.
I was just going to point out one more thing about this top 50 list. Mm-hmm. Another player or another athlete who was overlooked, Ricky Ponting. Ricky Ponting scored the second most Test runs of all time, 13,378 Test runs, 41 Test centuries, easily the most by any Australian batsman. And he doesn't make the top 50 yet.
Well, there's quite a few cricket players on there as well.
Yet Aaron Phillips from the AFLW makes it at number 48. But Ricky Ponting, the second highest Test run scorer of all time, with 41 Test centuries, easily the most by an Australian, doesn't make the list.
I'm telling you right now, there's not a single AFLW person who is one of the greatest of all time.
Yeah, come on. Seriously?
And Hulk Hogan needs Oscars, not...
And the biggest, no Rafael Nadal. That's inexcusable and that's unforgivable. And the people who put this list together need to have a good, long, hard look at themselves. I'd question people who put this list together. They shouldn't be writing for a paper like the Herald. They shouldn't have a job if they're going to leave Rafael Nadal out of a top 50 greatest athletes of all time. Yeah, this has been put together by their sports reporters. And no Rafael Nadal in your top 50 greatest athletes of all time. Give me a break. That's inexcusable. It's ridiculous.
If you're only going to have 2 male tennis players, it's Novak Djokovic and Rafael Nadal.
That's right.
If you can have 3, you can put Federer.
That's right. But Federer should be there, but just not ahead of Djokovic and not when Rafael Nadal's not even on the list.
So that's it for the week. We're back, and we'll be back next week. Don't forget to get all of your CBD needs from Optimum CBD, or I have to order again. You must be over 18 to order, and $99 order gets you free delivery. And make sure you sign up for Smart Play. The BBL is almost over, and we'll be launching NRL and AFL win real cash prizes, and also tipping will be coming back this year. Get your chance to try and beat Mitchell Pearce, Dan Ramus, John Lua and Craig Gower in the tipping competitions, and we use
that. Looking forward to the tipping comp this year.
I'm definitely going to win it this year. Dan got us all last year.
I think Craig Gower, he got it in the last game. We were level, and he tipped the Panthers, I tipped the Storm. Yeah. I wanted to make it interesting.
Yeah. We are making some changes to how the points will be awarded for finals this year for tipping, so finals games will be worth more points depending on the number of games per round, so I can get bigger swings in the finals period for close competitions. And that's it for the week, and I'll see you next week, Dan.
Thanks, John. See you then.